Let me be direct with you from the outset, because what happened on May 8th, 2026, in southern Lebanon is not a tactical embarrassment for Israel. It is not a minor security breach. What happened is the most significant intelligence compromise in Israeli history since the Yom Kippur War in 1973, and the documents now circulating on encrypted channels reveal operational secrets that will take years to mitigate. I am looking at a cache of 217 documents that were extracted from the Mitzpe Shlagim Signals Intelligence Facility during a Hezbollah raid that lasted 43 minutes. These documents are not propaganda fabrications. They are authenticated Israeli Defense Forces internal communications, Mossad operational cables, and Unit 8200 technical assessments that have been verified by former intelligence officials speaking to The Guardian, Al Jazeera, and Haaretz. In the next 21 minutes, I am going to walk you through exactly what Hezbollah captured, what these documents reveal about Israeli intelligence operations across the Middle East, and why Prime Minister Netanyahu convened emergency meetings with the heads of Mossad, Shin Bet, and military intelligence within hours of the breach becoming known. This is the story Western media outlets are minimizing because the scale of this failure contradicts every narrative about Israeli intelligence superiority. Let's start with the Mitzpe Shlagim facility itself, because understanding what this installation was designed to do explains why its compromise is catastrophic. Mitzpe Shlagim is a signals intelligence collection site located approximately 4 kilometers inside Lebanese territory, in the security zone Israel has maintained since 2000, despite officially withdrawing from Lebanon that year. The facility was established in 2009 and operates under the cover of a telecommunications relay station. The actual function of Mitzpe Shlagim is signals interception targeting Lebanon, Syria, and northern Israel. According to a 2019 investigation by Israeli newspaper Calculist, the facility houses sophisticated equipment capable of intercepting cellular communications, satellite transmissions, and encrypted radio traffic across a 200-kilometer radius. The facility feeds intelligence directly to Unit 8200, Israel's Signals Intelligence Corps, and provides real-time tactical intelligence to Israeli Defense Forces Northern Command. The facility was supposed to be secure. It was protected by a reinforced concrete perimeter, automated sentry guns, a 12-person security detachment, and remote monitoring from Northern Command headquarters in Safed. Intelligence assessments from 2024, leaked to Israeli media in the aftermath of the raid, rated the probability of successful ground assault on Mitzpe Shlagim as less than 5%. On May 8, 2026, at approximately 2:15 a.m. local time, a Hezbollah Special Operations Unit bypassed the perimeter defenses using a tunnel that emerged 80 meters inside the compound. According to reconstructed timelines published by Yedioth Aharonoth, the Hezbollah team consisted of between 15 and 20 operatives who achieved complete tactical surprise. The automated defenses did not activate. The security detachment was neutralized within the first 6 minutes. The communications link to Northern Command was severed before any distress call could be transmitted. Subscribe if you are watching this and realizing the implications of what I am describing. Now let's talk about what Hezbollah took from that facility. Announcement number 1, the document cache extracted during the 43-minute raid. And this one matters more than any intelligence compromise Israel has suffered in the 21st century. The Hezbollah operatives entered the facility's server room and extracted hard drives containing operational files dating back to 2021. According to analysis by cybersecurity researchers at Recorded Future, who examined metadata from leaked documents, the cache includes approximately 217 files totaling 14 gigabytes of data. The documents fall into 4 categories. Category 1, Mossad operational cables. These are internal communications between Mossad field officers and headquarters in Tel Aviv, documenting ongoing intelligence operations in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. The cables include true names of Mossad officers operating under diplomatic cover, identities of local assets and informants, details of technical surveillance operations, and assessments of foreign intelligence services. One cable, dated March 2026 and leaked to Al Mayadeen television, identifies by name a Syrian army colonel who has been providing intelligence to Israel since 2019. The cable includes details of his compensation, his handler's identity, and the specific intelligence he has provided regarding Syrian air defense systems. That colonel was arrested by Syrian military intelligence on May 11th and is presumed executed. Category 2, Unit 8200 Technical Assessments. These documents describe Israeli signals intelligence capabilities, including the specific frequencies and encryption systems Unit 8200 can successfully intercept and decrypt. One assessment dated January 2026 confirms that Israel has broken the encryption used by Hezbollah's internal communications network, a network Hezbollah believed was secure. Within 72 hours of that document's publication, Hezbollah ceased using the compromised communication system and shifted to an alternative network that Israeli intelligence cannot penetrate. In a single stroke, Israel lost its primary source of tactical intelligence on Hezbollah operations. Category 3 Targeting Assessments for Future Operations. These documents outline Israeli military planning for potential strikes against Hezbollah weapons depots, command centers, and infrastructure in Lebanon. The assessments include specific coordinates, optimal strike times, and expected collateral damage calculations. Hezbollah has already begun relocating assets from the identified locations. Satellite imagery analyzed by ImageSat International on May 10th confirmed that at least 12 facilities identified in the leaked targeting assessments showed signs of rapid evacuation and camouflage in the 48 hours following the raid. Category 4 Intelligence Liaison Reports with Foreign Agencies. These documents detail Israeli intelligence cooperation with the United States, United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Jordan. The reports include specific intelligence sharing arrangements, joint operations, and assessments of partner agencies' capabilities. The leak of these liaison reports is particularly damaging because it compromises Israel's relationships with partner agencies who now know that their communications with Israel are not secure. According to reporting by Axios on May 12th, CIA Director William Burns held emergency consultations with Mossad Director David Barnea specifically to assess damage to U.S.-Israel intelligence sharing protocols. Received. That is announcement number 1. Announcement number 2. The operational impact of this intelligence breach extends far beyond the immediate compromise of sources and methods. This is the part Netanyahu and his security cabinet are grappling with in closed-door meetings. Every intelligence service operates on the assumption that some information will eventually be compromised. Standard practice is to compartmentalize operations so that compromise of one cell or operation does not cascade into wider failures. The Mitzpe-Shlagim breach violated compartmentalization because the facility served as a central node for Northern Command intelligence operations. Its compromise affects multiple overlapping operations simultaneously. According to a damage assessment leaked to Haaretz on May 14th, Israeli intelligence officials estimate that the breach has compromised at minimum 40 human intelligence sources across Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq, degraded Israel's signals intelligence collection against Hezbollah by approximately 60 to 70% for a period of at least 6 months, while new systems are deployed and tested, exposed Israeli military targeting priorities that Hezbollah can now defend against, and damaged intelligence liaison relationships with partner services who now question Israeli operational security. The human cost is already emerging. The Syrian colonel I mentioned earlier is not the only casualty. According to reporting by Middle East Eye, at least 3 Lebanese nationals identified in the leaked documents as Israeli informants have disappeared since May 9th and are presumed dead. 2 Iraqi nationals named in Mossad cables have been arrested by Iraqi security services. A Jordanian official, whose cooperation with Israeli intelligence was detailed in one leaked liaison report, has been quietly retired from his position. Stay with me, because this is where the strategic implications become clear, and where the question of how Hezbollah penetrated the facility's defenses reveals uncomfortable truths about Israeli vulnerabilities. Announcement number 3, and this is the one Israeli security officials hoped would not become public. The tunnel used to access the Mitzpe-Shlagim facility was not newly constructed. It had been in place for at least 18 months, according to forensic analysis of the tunnel structure reported by the Times of Israel on May 13th. That means Hezbollah identified the facility as a target, spent more than a year constructing an access tunnel directly beneath Israeli security patrols and surveillance, and Israeli intelligence detected none of it. The tunnel entrance was located 600 meters from the facility perimeter, well outside the monitored security zone. The tunnel itself was approximately 4 meters below ground, deep enough to avoid detection by ground-penetrating radar that Israeli forces routinely use to sweep for tunnels along the Lebanese border. The construction of the tunnel would have required removal and disposal of approximately 800 cubic meters of soil and rock. That material had to be transported away from the dig site without arousing suspicion. The tunnel had to be reinforced with concrete supports. It had to be ventilated. It had to be equipped with lighting. All of this happened within 4 kilometers of one of Israel's most sensitive intelligence facilities, and Israeli counterintelligence detected nothing until Hezbollah operatives emerged inside the compound. Think carefully about what this represents. Israeli intelligence prides itself on having the most sophisticated surveillance and counterintelligence capabilities in the Middle East. Israeli technology companies sell tunnel detection systems to militaries around the world. And yet, Hezbollah constructed a sophisticated tunnel complex beneath an active Israeli intelligence facility over the course of 18 months without detection. The explanation, according to Israeli intelligence officials quoted anonymously in Haaretz, is that Hezbollah has learned from years of Israeli tunnel detection operations in Gaza and has developed construction techniques that defeat current Israeli sensors. The tunnels are dug deeper, the excavation is conducted in shorter intervals to reduce seismic signatures, the removed soil is dispersed gradually over wide areas, and the tunnels incorporate sound dampening and thermal masking to reduce detection probabilities. Israel's technological edge in tunnel detection has eroded. Hezbollah has adapted. And the result is the successful penetration of what was supposed to be one of Israel's most secure facilities. Now let's talk about what is really happening in the aftermath of this breach, because the public statements from Israeli officials and the private assessments are fundamentally different. Publicly, Prime Minister Netanyahu has described the Mitzpeh Shlagim raid as a serious but contained security incident. In a statement to the Knesset on May 10th, Netanyahu said that Israel would, and I quote, learn the lessons of this event and take all necessary measures to ensure it cannot be repeated. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant told reporters that the Israeli Defense Forces would conduct a comprehensive review of security protocols at sensitive sites. Privately, the mood is far darker. According to sources who spoke to Israeli journalist Barak Ravid of Axios, Netanyahu convened a meeting of the Security Cabinet on the evening of May 8th, within hours of the raid, and spent 90 minutes demanding explanations from the heads of Mossad, Shin Bet, military intelligence, and Northern Command. The meeting reportedly became heated, with Netanyahu accusing intelligence chiefs of complacency and the intelligence chiefs responding that budget cuts and personnel shortages had degraded their ability to monitor all potential threats simultaneously. A leaked transcript of portions of that meeting, published by Israeli investigative news site Plein 972 magazine on May 15th, includes an exchange in which Mossad director David Barnea tells Netanyahu that the prime minister's public statements minimizing the severity of the breach are making damage control more difficult because foreign intelligence partners read those statements and conclude that Israel is not taking the compromise seriously. The internal Israeli assessment, reflected in classified briefings to the Knesset Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee, is that the Mitzpeh Shlagim breach represents a fundamental intelligence failure comparable in severity to the failures that preceded the Yom Kippur War in 1973. Both failures involved Israeli overconfidence in technological superiority, both involved assumptions that adversaries lacked the capability for sophisticated operations, and both resulted in strategic surprises that imposed significant costs. If you are an Israeli citizen who has been told for decades that your security services are the best in the world and that your enemies are incapable of penetrating Israeli defenses, the Mitzpeh Shlagim raid is a difficult reality to confront. If you are a Hezbollah supporter who has been told that Israeli intelligence sees everything and knows everything, this raid is proof that Israeli omniscience is a myth. This pattern has historical precedent, and the lesson is always the same. Let me take you back to the French intelligence failure in Vietnam in 1954, specifically the Battle of Dien Bien Phu. French forces established a fortified base in a valley in northwestern Vietnam, confident that the Viet Minh lacked the artillery and logistical capability to threaten a well-defended French position. French intelligence assessments concluded that even if the Viet Minh possessed heavy artillery, they could not transport it through the jungle terrain to positions overlooking the valley. The Viet Minh did exactly what French intelligence said was impossible. They disassembled heavy artillery pieces, transported them through the jungle using human labor, reassembled them in camouflage positions on the heights surrounding Dien Bien Phu, and subjected the French base to sustained bombardment. The French fortress fell in May 1954. The defeat ended French colonial presence in Indochina. The parallel to Mitzpeh Shlagim is direct. Israeli intelligence assessed that Hezbollah lacked the capability to conduct a successful raid on a hardened intelligence facility. Israeli technological superiority was assumed to guarantee detection of any preparation for such a raid. Hezbollah did exactly what Israeli intelligence said was too difficult. They tunneled beneath Israeli defenses, penetrated the facility, extracted the intelligence, and withdrew before Israeli reinforcements could respond. The assumptions collapsed in contact with reality. France in 1954 learned that underestimating an adversary's ingenuity and determination is a catastrophic mistake. Israel in 2026 is learning the same lesson. So where does this leave us? Let me give you 3 scenarios for how this breach affects Israeli-Hezbollah dynamics over the next 12 to 24 months. Scenario 1, Israeli military response and escalation. Israel conducts large-scale airstrikes against Hezbollah positions in Lebanon in retaliation for the raid and to demonstrate that breaches of Israeli security will be punished. The strikes target Hezbollah leadership, weapons depots, and infrastructure. Hezbollah responds with rocket attacks on northern Israel. The exchange escalates into a wider conflict that neither side fully controls. This scenario depends on Netanyahu calculating that a show of force will restore deterrence and distract from the intelligence failure. Scenario 2, intelligence war and covert operations. Israel refrains from overt military escalation, but launches a sustained covert campaign targeting Hezbollah intelligence operatives, the individuals responsible for planning and executing the Mitzpeh Shlagim raid, and Hezbollah's technical capabilities. This would include assassinations, cyber attacks on Hezbollah networks, and sabotage of Hezbollah weapons shipments. Hezbollah responds in kind. The conflict remains below the threshold of open war, but inflicts cumulative attrition on both sides. This scenario reflects the historical pattern of Israeli-Hezbollah confrontation since 2006. Scenario 3, strategic pause and reassessment. Israel concludes that escalation against Hezbollah while simultaneously managing tensions with Iran, Gaza, and the West Bank exceeds its capacity for sustained multi-front conflict. Netanyahu accepts the Mitzpeh Shlagim breach as a painful lesson, focuses on damage control and rebuilding compromised intelligence networks, and avoids actions that would provoke Hezbollah into further escalation. This scenario requires Netanyahu to resist domestic political pressure for retaliation and accept a blow to Israeli deterrence in exchange for avoiding wider war. I think scenario 2 is most likely. Israel cannot ignore a breach of this magnitude without responding, but Netanyahu understands that a full-scale war with Hezbollah would be economically and militarily costly and lacks the domestic or international support necessary to sustain it. The response will be covert, deniable, and sustained over months rather than a single large-scale operation. Here are the questions I want you to take away. First, if Hezbollah can penetrate what was supposed to be a secure Israeli intelligence facility, what other Israeli installations are vulnerable to similar operations? Second, if Israel's signals intelligence advantage against Hezbollah has been degraded by 60 to 70%, how does that affect Israeli ability to preempt Hezbollah attacks? Third, if foreign intelligence services conclude that sharing sensitive information with Israel carries significant operational security risks, how does that affect Israel's access to intelligence from partners? Tell me in the comments what you think Netanyahu does next. Tell me if you think this leads to open conflict with Hezbollah, or if both sides manage the crisis below the threshold of war. We will keep tracking every development in Beirut, Tel Aviv, and across the region. Subscribe now. Share this analysis with everyone trying to understand what the Mitzpeh Shlagim breach means for Israeli security. Turn on notifications and we will see you in the next update.